the 31st of December 2017, and I'd like to welcome you to this edition of the Guitarist TV Big Fuck Off Rock Show. It's a new kind of format that I'm experimenting with right now, and you know, we are very good at experimenting with these kind of things, and so you can see that you know, one of the nice things we can do is we're able to there we go, you see, I'm not even sure if you can hear that, but you might be able to, but I can hear it, so I'm sure you can. And that's an advert which has been played on the Guitarist TV channel show. So they play an advert before the actual show starts. So we'll let the advert run, because you probably won't see it, or you probably won't see me talking now. And so until the advert's finished, so here we go. There you go. On the Guitarist TV channel show. So they play an advert before the actual show starts. There we go. We'll get the advert. So now here we go. You probably won't see it. Well, you probably won't see me talking now, and so until the advert's finished. Fantastic. There we go. So here we go. There you go. So here we go. We are live on Guitarist TV, and I do invite you to tune in and check it out. I hope it's going to be as interesting as everything else that is going on in the world right now. And what else do we have? We have it on YouTube live. So if I go to this one here, you might be able to, there we go. See, now we can see this is on YouTube live, so I need to share this, and let me just share here. I'm just going to share it on a lot of channels before we get actually going on the channel, and get all these wonderful videos I'm going to show you right now. You can tune in and just get ready, get a nice glass of wine or something like that, and so check out my new Guitarist. Hey, this is quite cool, man. This TV rock show, live on YouTube. There we go, live on YouTube. Now we do the radio show on Facebook Live, and Facebook Live is excellent, it's brilliant. But this is a new format, because of course this is Guitarist TV, as you can see in the top left hand corner, right hand corner, wherever, right hand corner. And so with Guitarist TV there is no radio play, it's all video, so, which is fantastic. And it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out, because it is, of course, a very first. So I'd like to just tell you a little bit about how we got to this point in the world, and that is very interesting, because I started my music career out as a guitar player, musician, playing cover versions in a cover band called Riff Raff in Durban, on the east coast of South Africa. So you can see it behind me. It's that's America. So the one coming as it moves, there we go, about there, somewhere down there. Yes, okay, well, where it was. And that's where I'm from originally, South Africa. Beautiful country. If you ever get a chance, you need to head out there and go and explore the wonderful adventures of South Africa, and the beauty of South Africa is incredible. Now this band that we put together, I was, you know, we worked many hours and days in nightclubs and all these kind of things, and it was interesting. But this particular video I'm going to show you now was one of our first rehearsals that we did, and I'm trying to think what year that would have been. It might have been in the 80s, actually, you know, 1988, 89, sort of, maybe even 87. This is before my son, I think my son was born then, and I'd retired from playing in pubs and clubs, because, yeah, married fellow with a young baby, I wanted to have you know, I didn't feel like working at night as my main job. I would prefer to have a normal job, 8 to 5, and bring up a family as a family man and play music part-time. So that was the mission. And so my dear friend CJ, I kind of convinced him to join me in that quest. And so we played covers. Of course, in South Africa, if you went onto the pubs and anywhere in the world really, if you go into a pub to play music and you play your own music, nobody knows the songs, you're not going to be very successful. But if you play other people's songs who are already, you know, #1 hits and all that, you've got a good chance of entertaining them. People will recognize the songs, they'll love it, they'll have a good time. And that's basically how it works. So I'm going to hit the button which is going to bring the video into the live scenario, and I don't know who's watching, and I hope whoever is brave enough to sit and watch me play videos on the Guitarist rock show. But hey ho, here we go. This is Riff Raff and some serious music. So there you have it. Fantastic. Guitarist TV at its best. And of course, featuring CJ and my good self here on our first expedition and working as a duo. You know, we were normally playing in big 5-piece bands and all that, but of course the industry in Durban back in those days really took a dive, and it was very difficult to get work as a full-time outfit. So MIDI had just come into the world, and of course so we took full advantage of that, him and I, and we went out and rocked the world and created Cave Rock Cafe, and we had a good time. So I'm just posting on Facebook now, because this is the very first big feck off size Guitarist TV rock show, live on Guitarist TV, live on YouTube as well, and guitaristTV.com, guitaristTV.com. So let's just pop that up there for everybody to see. This is one amazing thing about the future of television in the world, and as things stand, we're able to do this with all this amazing technology. Fantastic. So here we go. Right. If you just tuned in, warm welcome to you, ladies and gentlemen. You are tuned into the Guitarist TV, the very first big feck off Guitarist TV rock show, with your host Michael de Jager. I'm going to take you now to what happened next. What happened next was I came to England, and of course, arriving in England, joined a band called the V-Rats, and the V-Rats were connected with Al Atkins, who is founder member of Judas Priest. And through that meeting, I met Dennis Stratton, who is a guitarist, the original guitar player from Iron Maiden, and we went and did a whole lot of stuff together. But before that all happened, I did meet a fabulous gentleman from the West Midlands, which is where I lived in Wolverhampton, and his name was Brian Tatler, and Brian was a absolute legend. I'd never heard of this band called Diamond Head, and Diamond Head was Brian's band, and he had the band for some time when I met him, and he found out that I did music videos and all that sort of thing. Well, I was just sort of starting out back in those days in 2002, 3, somewhere around there. And but this was the very first video that I actually got paid for doing. This is Brian Tatler's band, Diamond Head, and a very cool tune. Okay, I hope you enjoy it.
Free, and you're free to love, but not another man can look in your eyes.
There you go. So there you have it. Cool tunes by Diamond Head, and that was Mine or Mine. In case you didn't know that, it was a great song that the guys put together there, and the vocalist at that time, Nick, had just actually joined the band. So one of the very first songs that he ever performed with the band, and we recorded that that video at a place called JB's in Dudley. A very legendary live music venue in the West Midlands, and tremendous, very great, and a very wonderful band and awesome guitars. Right, the next thing that I'd like to show you, which was a video that I did for Al Atkins after we got back from touring. We decided to record a couple tunes. And Al was in the middle of recording his album called Demon Deceiver, which was a compilation of songs which featured lots of different guitar players, and I was honoured and privileged to be able to have played on that album. And I worked with Brian Tatler from Diamond Head on this next track, and this next track was written by Peter Ames. A song called Blood, Demons and Whiskey. I'm going to play for you right now. It was recorded at Mad Hat Studios in Wolverhampton. Now it's called M2 Studios. I think they've changed their name. But you'll recognize the studio and the music and everything produced by Mark V. Stewart and Gina Genius. Yes, very nice. Anyway, enjoy.
No sympathy, I don't want nobody to cry along for me, to make me judge so many lies. I'm through this mirror, I've lived 1,000 lives. Give me a reason, give yourself one too. I want more excuse for all the things we do. I crave a lover, I need a friend, but my companion stayed with me till the end. It's just blood, demons and whiskey. Yes, it's blood, demons and whiskey.
Killer song by Al Atkins and the Al Atkins Band, featuring Brian Tatler on guitar doing the solo, and yours truly playing the rhythm bits and all the riffs and everything else. On the drums, of course, the amazing Adrian Badlands. What a great guy. We went to New York together as well, and lovely chap. Great atmosphere, great vibe. It was just one of those magical moments that we managed to catch on tape, and I think the warmth of the song will explain, you know, how fabulous, you know, even though the song is called Blood Demons and Whiskey, it has a very completely different meaning. After we did that wonderful tour with Dennis, with all the guys actually, we came back to England, and I became very good friends with Dennis Stratton, guitarist from Iron Maiden, and we got together with Guitarist TV, as it is now, and we decided to, well, I offered actually to do a video of, or a couple of DVDs of his life and times. So we did the life and times of Dennis Stratton and his early years with Iron Maiden. Of course, Dennis started off with Remusdown Boulevard and with his mates, and they used to play at a pub in the east side of London, and which is where Iron Maiden are from. And of course, the guys from Iron Maiden used to go to the pub, and it was called the Breakhouse. I'll think of it in a minute. But they used to go to this one particular venue and watch Dennis play, you know, and Steve would go and stand at the back, and he knew the guys were there. And eventually Steve Harris from Iron Maiden got hold of Dennis and interviewed him, and he got the job. Obviously the record was already recorded, hadn't been released yet, but Dennis came in, had to learn all the songs, and then when the album went live, but you know what, I'm going to let Dennis tell you all about it. So here we go. This is a little something I did with Dennis Stratton. Hope you enjoy it.
It is early in the morning, though, isn't it? It's like, and it's Sunday morning as well.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah. So, GTV.
Yes. Well, welcome everybody to Guitarist TV, GTV. I'm sitting here with Dennis Stratton having a Bloody Mary. It's Sunday morning, 10 o'clock.
And after a heavy gig in London last night, this is pretty hard work.
Okay. So, well, welcome to GTV anyway.
Nice to meet you, mate.
So, let's start just by briefly talking a little bit about the early days of Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
That album was, well, it was huge, wasn't it? Here's the gold disc behind us.
Yeah, it was that, yeah. Well, I think basically when Iron Maiden signed a deal to EMI, there was just the three of them, Steve, Dave and Paul. And basically they were looking for another guitarist and a drummer, so that's where I came in, and Clive Burrow, who was a friend of mine at the time, he came in, and I took Clive to the studio, and they liked what they saw, and so Clive got the gig, and then we went on from there. I had quite a lot of work to do, learning the material that the guys were doing before I joined the band, so the songs were already written. There was a lot of little riffs that was new to me that I had to learn, so it was a bit challenging, and it was nice and exciting. So I progressed with all the songs and all the riffs, Phantom of the Opera, which was a bit demanding, but in the end it all came on, and then off to the studio, and we recorded the first album, so it was good.
And all the duo guitar work that you do, all that harmony work, I mean, when it had originally been written, was it with two guitars in mind, or did you add that? No,
I'd always worked in the previous bands that I'd worked with before Maiden, like RDB, Remusdown Boulevard. We'd always been a harmony guitar band. We always listened to bands like Wishbone Ash, Capability Brown, all the good harmony guitar stuff. And I've always that has always been my sort of way of working. To play the same notes in unison to me it just sounds boring. So I always end up working with the harmony guitar parts. And the good thing about it with the new stuff I was learning with Maiden, was that there was room for the harmony guitar. There was a nice sort of like riffs going on, exciting, fast riffs for the songs, and so we built them up in the studio with the help of the engineer or the producer. We worked on them not just with the 2 harmonies. There might be 3 harmonies or 4. It started to get to make the song sound much bigger than what they started off at, you know.
Yes, and you were certainly given the space in terms of on top of a riff, but also in the song you were given large chunks of guitar solo.
Yeah, I think that comes with any band with 2 guitarists, that they always try and make space for 2 solos, whether not so much the harmony guitars, but 2 guitar breaks. And a lot of their songs, the songs that we were recording at the time did have that space for the 2 solos. But whereas the riffs for certain songs, on you know, Prowler, on Running Free, you know, all of them, there was always space with them riffs for the harmony guitar to make it sound that bit fatter, you know, that bigger sound. You know, probably a couple of times in the studio we probably went over the top with the harmonies and it started sounding a bit like Brian May or Queen, or you know, even with the vocal harmonies I think they got a little bit carried away, so we had to sort of like eliminate a couple of tracks so that it just stayed raw but still with the 2 or 3 part harmony bits, you know. So it was nice for me to take that into the band, you know.
Yeah. And now Running Free was a single, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the first single off the first album, yeah.
And that that went quite high in the charts.
Yeah, it was a bit of a surprise, because not a surprise for the band, I think, because they'd already been touring with these songs for the album. So when the first album came out, it went straight into number 4 on advanced orders. So the management company, and I think Steve in the band, they had an idea that it was going to chart. EMI had already told them that it was going to chart quite high, and it did at number 4 through advanced orders on that release day, which shot us straight up. And releasing the single again off that album, you know, that put us into the charts, you know, quite high. I can't remember exactly where Running Free went, but I know it was on the old playlist on a Sunday evening at 7 o'clock with, you know, Alan Freeman, I think it was.
Right. And you did Top of the Pops for that?
Yeah, we did Top of the Pops. We were the first band, I think, for a long time, or even the first band to ever play live on Top of the Pops.
Oh really? I thought that Top of the Pops didn't have any live bands.
Well, they didn't. We did cause quite a stir down at the studio, because basically the Top of the Pops studio is very small. The old studio back in 79, 80, it's very small, and you've only got room for a small crowd, and they had this big camera on a big crane jig thing that used to come across the studio and push the people in front of the stage that they were filming on, and so it was quite hard for us to do it live. I remember we used the H&H valve sound amps, because years ago you used to be able to put the gain full up and the volume down, so you still had this really like gritty, distorted sound, but at a low level. And I remember we got into so many problems there, because the producers and the engineers were coming and saying the drums are too loud, the cymbals are too loud, so we had to take the drums down, we had to deaden the cymbals down and bring the guitars down, and it was just hard, but we ended up doing it. One of the funniest memories I ever remember was that Shakin' Stevens was on before us on Top of the Pops, and he was doing This Old House, and basically in the Top of the Pops studio you have one monitor. If you're miming, which they all did, you have one monitor in front of you on the stage, and the crowd stand behind the monitor, so you can't see the monitor. And Shakin' Stevens was miming to This Old House, and they were playing it back through this one speaker, and you couldn't hear the music coming through the speaker, because as he was dancing his trainers were squeaking so loud we could hear him on the other side of the studio, so he couldn't hear the track. So that's how quiet it is in them studios. It was ridiculous, but we did it live. It sounded great. I think the presenter at the time was Peter Powell or someone like that, and he introduced the boys from West Ham, and we did it live, and you know, it went down really well.
And one of the other songs off that album, which is obviously very famous, is Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah,
like so the Lucozade advert with Daley Thompson.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that to me started off as a bit of a nightmare because I'd never heard Phantom of the Opera until I joined the band, because they were just writing it and running through, you know, doing it pre-production for the album. And I remember walking into the rehearsal studios and Steve and Dave saying, "How did you get on with the songs?" And I said, "No problem." I said, "I've got most of them sorted." And then Paul would sort of strut through the studio and say, "Wait till he gets Phantom of the Opera." And I thought, "Oh, this must be a toughie," you know. And it was, because it's such a long song and it's got the different time changes and everything. But it was great when we started recording it. I was let loose in the studio with harmony guitars and also the harmony vocals, because I do love the harmony vocals. But Maiden wasn't a harmony vocal band, but with the, you know, "you haunt me, you taunt me," you know, them bits, I just started laying down these harmonies. And I remember Rod walking in and going, "Sounds like Queen, get rid of them." So we had to take a lot of the harmonies off. I think we were just experimenting at the time in the studio with a new producer, a new engineer, and, you know, a new sort of way of looking at the songs with the harmony vocals. They still kept some of the harmonies on there, but they took quite a few off, you know. But the guitars did sound good because they were in harmonies as well.
And can you still remember the beginning of that? Do you still play it?
No. The problem with this was there was never a count, so it wasn't like 1, 2, 3, 4. It was never a count. So live, me and Dave Murray used to sort of walk across the front of the stage together and sort of look at one another and just sort of go, and then there was this gap, and he'd go, "Well, there's no count." So the good thing, it was just like, you know, you'd look at one another and it just felt, it was like, so there was no count. It was just, you know, we just used to look at one another, and it was just great to get to the bit was because you knew you was in the song, and then off we went. Oh yeah, and off we went. That was it. It was just that haunting bit at the beginning that there was no count. So you used to walk across and just go, "Ready?" And there's all these people sort of going potty up front of you, and you go, "You can't count, can't concentrate." It was just madness, you know. But yeah.
Well, those days are credited in last month's Guitar magazine, aren't they? With their guitars. I don't know if you've seen it, but Guitarist.
Yes. I was very pleased. Yeah, it was nice to be honest. I did go through it, and it was nice of the magazine or whoever did it to add that picture of me and Dave, although it doesn't say. On the other page you've got the new lineup of Maiden with the names on it, but I just thought it was a nice touch to sort of even put that picture in, because it was the early days. It was 1980, we were on tour, and the band was starting to make a mark, you know, throughout the world, not just in England, but going to the States and in Europe on the Kiss tour. So it was nice for them to put that picture in, you know. It was good.
So, and that was a seminal album, and then you left for Lionheart.
Yeah, I think a lot of sort of rumours fly around about when you leave or when you're sacked and whatever. And the truth is, basically, Rod and Steve just thought, because my musical background with the harmony guitars and the harmony vocals and the kind of music I listen to, I believe no matter what music you play, you can listen to any music you like. It doesn't affect your work, it doesn't affect your playing. But at an early stage, Rod was a young manager, and he wanted the band to do well, and he wanted to keep them together. I'd already toured many years before joining Maiden with different bands. Being in Europe with Status Quo is a good upbringing, it's a good apprenticeship, and it teaches you a lot. And Rod wanted to keep everyone together, and he just got the impression that I wasn't into the metal, into the band, and I was. The difference was I didn't have to listen to heavy metal when I was sitting in a hotel room or relaxing at home.
What were you listening to?
I could listen to the Eagles, which I love. I could listen to George Benson. I'd listen to Whitesnake. I'd listen to all the early Purple stuff, Stormbringer. I'd listen to a cross section of music, depending on what mood you're in. You know, if you've been travelling all day and then you've been playing a Maiden set for an hour and a half, you get back to your room and you want to put a bit of music on, you know, who knows what mood you're in. So you just put anything on that relaxes you while you're having a shower or a bath or whatever, you know. But I got the impression Rod seemed to think that I wasn't totally 100% Maiden and all that. So we had a bit of a disagreement, and then we parted company.
Taking you back a few years there. Great times, great times. And so, fabulous interview with Dennis Stratton done by Mr. Peter Caldwell there back in the day. Early morning after tough gigs on a Saturday night, Sunday morning, drinking some seriously cool dope. Righto, so what I just played you was the Vaseline Rats, or the V-Rats as they later became known. That was the band that I joined in the West Midlands with the legendary bassman, composer, Mr. Peter Ems, and on the drums, the drummer that I have always enjoyed working with, Mr. Adrian Badlands. Great times, and you know, from that that whole episode, you know, from starting out with riff raff and then moving all the way along, and coming across all these wonderful musicians and great people that I had the privilege of working with. Pete Ems and I decided to go and record a record. He wanted to record a record, so we booked the time at Mad Hat or M2 Studios in Wolverhampton, and we began the project. And this project took us almost a year to record, because Pete funded this project out of his own pocket. So it did take time. All his songs, all his compositions, and you know, I was just honoured and privileged enough to be part of that whole scenario. I've been able to record a complete CD, and the CD is called Intelligent Design, and this is one of the tracks that I produced the video for shortly after we recorded the song, actually. So every time we finished doing a song, we'd you know, I'd produce the video. And so this was done in Stourbridge, at a rehearsal room in Stourbridge. And anyway, it's called Etal. I hope you enjoy it.
When you were mine, you see choices, it makes you sweat. That's how it is when you place your bets. You don't make it easy at all. 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 Guitarist! Yeah, great! Play as bloody want! Oh, superb!
And of course, that was our sound engineer at the at Southampton, at Stourbridge, in Stourbridge. What a great gentleman. We used to call him the Mule. A lovely guy, and you know, he kind of looked after us during that time. It was fabulous. We had a great time. Thank you very much, Mr. Mule. And you know, he was an absolute legend, and he still is an absolute legend in that part of the world. And hopefully one of these fine days we get a chance to get back up to the West Midlands and come and say hello. But if you just tuned in, warm welcome to you. My name is Michael de Jager, and you're watching the first ever Guitarist TV, the big fuck-off size Guitarist TV rock show. On YouTube, we are live. On YouTube is also, we are live also on the Guitarist TV channel itself. Of course, Guitarist TV channel, Guitarist TV was formed in 2006, officially launched on its maiden voyage by the legendary Joe Satriani. And in the next show, I will bring you all of that information about Joe and how we met and how things progressed and to where we are today. Some 10, 11, 12 years later. Well, what are we? 2017, 2006. So yes, it's been a long time coming. It was indeed one of my privileges to have travelled to South Africa, the country of my birth, and play some music there with the guys from Iron Maiden and various musicians from London. And we went across 2008, I think. Anyway, when I was there, I recorded some very nice footage with my camera, and decided when I got back to England to write some music and play it. But while I was there, I found it very encouraging and inspiring to get out and to actually go and share the experiences that I have had the privilege of having in England with my fellow South African musicians, especially the ones in Durban. So we did a couple of what they call clinics, guitar clinics, in a local music shop in Durban called Coastal Music. It was great and great fun, and the guys of Coastal Music were brilliant, and they hosted us. They set up the whole thing, and you know, it's a very small community of guitar players back in the day, and it was lovely to actually you know, be part of this whole thing. And so we did. It was a complete jam. It was just unrehearsed. You know, I got on the drums Mr. Mally Sewell, who was legendary drummer from South Africa, Durban drummer, and my dear good friend Gavin Muller on bass guitar. So just three of us, we got up there and decided to have a little jam in E minor. Ta-dang! And I put the song, I put whatever we recorded. So it was recorded just through the microphone of a camera. So it's nothing fancy. The sound is not very good, but you know, you captures the essence of the musicality and the wonderful atmosphere that was there on the day. And the song doesn't even have a name. It's just called a jam. The jam in E minor, I suppose we could call it. But the footage I took was from the hotel I was living in at the time, staying in up the north coast near Ballito, which is a beautiful part of Durban, just north of Durban. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this. Amazing stuff. And that was recorded in Durban at in various locations actually, because a song that I wrote and recorded right here was this song called Out of the Darkness. And Out of the Darkness, what I did is I took all the footage that I'd recorded when I was on tour in South Africa, playing at the Coastal Music and playing at the Harley Davidson rally, which we organized heading up towards VMAX on one of the afternoons, where I interviewed my brother and everything. It was brilliant, absolutely amazing. And I rode that Harley Davidson Fat Bob that you see on the shots there, and amazing. What an absolute privilege, and indeed an honor it was to have been able to celebrate great rock and roll music with my brother Trevor de Jager on that day. And also a very big thank you to all the guys at Marshall Amps in the United Kingdom for sponsoring me this beautiful amplifier. A JVM 410H was the one that I used, and it was just absolutely superb. It's one that I would recommend. It's the only amp I use at the moment. This is a Marshall JVM, super duper amplifier, and even Joe Satriani switched across. And I'm sure after Joe watched me playing and everything, he went, "Hey man, you know, I got to have that sound." Although he'll never admit it, but never mind. Oh dear, Joe, I love him. He's actually such a nice guy and such a beautiful musician and a lovely person. Now, one of my greatest friends and one of my most famous friends, basically, a guy called Dennis Stratton, has been very good to me over the years, and we have had some good gigs together, playing all over the place. And look at, my beautiful wife has brought me some wonderful food for lunch. Oh, thank you so much, sweetheart. Oh my gosh. And we are, of course, on air right now, so I'm going to just put that to one side, and I'm going to eat that in a minute. So I'm going to play you one of the second to last track for the show today, and this is Guitarist TV's. This is Lionheart, and Dennis Stratton, of course, was part of that whole scenario. You know, he was part of Lionheart in the early days. Anyway, enjoy this.
You know I
absolutely amazing. I have a mouthful of food. So it is, of course, New Year's Eve 2017 and 31st of December, and we are celebrating the very first Guitarist TV big feck-off size rock show. And if you just tuned in, a very warm welcome to you, and thank you very much for tuning in. It's lovely to see you. I'm about to play the last little song for you. Anyway, if you've watched this from the beginning, you will have enjoyed every minute, and as much as I have. And I would like to take this opportunity to wish you and yours a very, very prosperous and happy new year for 2018. And I certainly hope that whatever you wish in your wildest dreams comes true for you from this point onwards until 2018. So God bless you for tuning in. Thank you so much for your support. I do appreciate it. It's very hard to do anything in this business. And of course, it's all funded by myself. And I have looked after this Guitarist TV for nearly 10, 12 years now. And I will continue to do so. And until they put me in the box in the ground. And so there we go. This is a song that I wrote called Spirit Moves, and it is a very emotional song because I dedicated it to my late mom, and I also dedicated it to everybody that is tuning in to watch this program. Thank you so much. I do thank you very much. And it is basically a celebration of life in Durban, the city where I grew up in South Africa, a beautiful city. And also to all my lovely family that still live in South Africa, my cousins and my brothers and sisters, and my late mom and dad are now gone. But we also recorded this song. The video actually was recorded in DB Studios in 1995. So all the footage that you see here, some of it is of the studio that I built in Hillary in Durban in 1987. And you'll see footage of some really old gear and stuff, but it is a celebration of the spirit that has moved me from the beginning until where we are today, right now, and almost into 2018. So I do hope that you've enjoyed. Technology has moved along immensely from those days, early days of music, when I first built my very first alternative recording studios in Hillary in the garage. And some of the footage that you see in the next video is of exactly that. And the days when my son Byron, who is now 30 years old actually, was a little toddler crawling around with with a dummy in his mouth. He won't thank me for giving you that picture, and I do apologize, Byron, but this is a very special moment for us all. And once again, thanks so very much for tuning in. God bless you, and I hope that you've enjoyed the show. This is Spirit Moves by my good self, and I hope you enjoyed. Have a fantastic 2018. Bye for now.